Good day, everybody. This is Mike Field with the Capital Region Business Podcast, and I'm here today with our special guest, Maria Messier. Good afternoon, Maria. Thanks for being here. Maria is the owner of ExtendHer, which is a luxury baby goods brand catered to the unique and innovative baby products for moms and families on the go. And Maria opened this up with her partner, Joanne Frank, back in 2015. And Maria, we are very excited to have you on here because I think you got some really interesting things to share as far as your business, especially in these times.
Thank you so much for having me today, Mike.
Yeah. So I guess just to kind of get into a little bit about the business itself, when you opened up, in the background of the brand ExtendHer, when you opened up in 2015, what was the inspiration and how did you come up with the idea behind it and kind of what was your idea behind it?
So at the time, I was expecting baby number 2, and I was very large. I had put on a lot of weight with that particular pregnancy, and I had found that I couldn't zip my coat. And obviously living in upstate New York, it's freezing. And one of the challenges women face in their last trimester is, do I invest in a maternity coat? Do I not? There's always that age-old question. And most of us really try to stick it out because it's a wasteful investment. When you have a baby, then what do you do with the coat? So I was trying to get to the store, and I literally could not fit in my coat. I had to wear my husband's North Face and just really not feeling good about myself. And the idea just sort of came to me. How is it that there's not something on the market that can expand your own coats while pregnant?
Right.
But, most of us have a great idea, but it's a matter of what do we do with that idea? Usually it's pushed to the back of your mind. And of course, here I was about to have a baby. So fast forward about 1.5 years later, I was expecting twins and very quickly was in the same predicament. Couldn't zip my coat. So I was at a family party and I was talking to my Aunt Joanne, and I mentioned, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? So Joanne is a New York fashion designer. She's been in the industry for a long time. And immediately she said, you know what? You are onto something, and I want to jump on this venture with you because I think it can really be something big. So that's sort of the backstory. The cool thing about having a designer partner is she literally made a prototype in like a week. I mean, she came to my house and she measured my belly, and before you know it, we had this prototype. And I still remember it. It was this hot pink fleece prototype just because that's what she had in her design studio. But the concept was just sort of developing. And literally 7 prototypes later, we knew that we nailed our product and we had something.
I didn't realize you guys were related with that. That makes this kind of cool, at least special, the business connection. And obviously we're a family-owned business, and it's nice when you're able to work in that capacity. So she comes up with this model within like a week. Then is that?
Literally, yes.
Wow.
She came over. Here's the prototype. Give it a whirl. Try it out. I had a neighbor who was also expecting, so we tried it on her just to see what it looks like, what it feels like.
Yeah.
And that's the key behind product development: trying it out, testing the market,
Right.
figuring out the kinks and what you need to fix.
Yeah.
And one major thing that we actually found out very quickly, our design was zippered on the sides, and we figured that that's not going to work because everyone's zipper is different and the teeth won't match up.
Right.
So that's why we ended up moving to the clip concept.
Gotcha.
Yes.
How long did it take you to figure that part of it out?
Pretty quickly, because Joanne actually tested it out on her husband, and she realized that, hey, wait a minute, this isn't working.
Yeah, that's not even something you think about. Like, you have all these different coats, and how would you?
Exactly. So we wanted to really make it, first of all, we were building our brand sort of as a luxury brand. So obviously that's going to attract a certain customer.
Yeah.
And we really just wanted to think about all these little things because, of course, we want people to be satisfied with their purchase. It is an investment. And then the other thing is we decided that more than just a maternity accessory, we wanted to have people utilize it since it was in fact an investment. So that's where we came up with the idea, hey, let's use this so people can also use it later after having a baby. So that's where the baby wearing component came in. So when you are wearing your baby, you put it over top, clip it to your coat, and it protects the baby from, you know, nature's elements, whether it's rain, snow, whatever it may be.
Right.
So it's a dual function product.
See, this is one of those things that you think about, you know, and I've been watching Shark Tank recently, the last couple of years, like, you know, and to have you guys come up with this idea, it's just cool to see a local, and then obviously we've known each other for a long time. And
Sure.
when you were coming up with that, I just thought it was kind of cool that good for her to come up with this idea, and just the creativity of it, I think is interesting, you know?
It is, and it's been quite a ride, I'll tell you. I mean, as you know, I've been an RN now for almost 21 years, so
Right.
I had zero business background.
Sure.
And a lot of this is self-taught, just sort of learning
Yeah.
important concepts behind it, because it's one thing to have a product, it's another thing to patent it, well, launch it, patent it, and actually sell it in a major you know, a major store or retail outlet. So
Right.
it's been quite the journey.
So as far as the product, you mentioned products. As far as the products, what type of, like, are there multiple products? Is it just the code extension, you know, for the baby, or what other products do you guys offer, or is that really the main product?
I mean, that's our main product. Over the years, we've developed some other things. For instance, we had a product launch last year called the Cover for Me. And what that is, it's a 4-in-1 cover for parents on the go, but
Okay.
it's UPF 50 material. So this is where kind of my nursing background comes into play. The American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend sunscreen on infants less than 6 months of age. And one of the tricky parts is that if you want to be outside, especially in the summer months, or if you live in a warm weather climate, how do you protect your infant? So oftentimes women are nursing outside, or they're baby wearing, or even just, you know, for a little stroll in the stroller, how do you protect them without overheating? So we came up with this 4-in-1 design, and it's basically a great light blanket that has UPF 50 material. So it's super, super lightweight and a really great product. So that was kind of a new launch. The challenge with something that's not proprietary like that is that, you know, they're a dime a dozen. So really our true product is the extender. It's patented, we're protected. So very different, two very different lines, I guess, if you will, but all under our main company.
And as far as these products, where are they manufactured or made, or how does that process work?
So we have taken great pride in that everything is made in the U.S.
Awesome.
It's been a challenge, I'm not going to lie. We have been back and forth, almost pulling the trigger of going overseas, but then reminding ourselves of the grassroots efforts that we've had, and that we've built a brand on USA Made, and we kept it here. The challenge is it costs a whole heck of a lot more to do it. And it's also difficult to find a manufacturer that is willing to take on what they call small batch manufacturing.
Yeah.
So it's been really difficult. But again, this is where Joanne comes into play, because she knows the business, the manufacturing end, and knows what's acceptable. We have been extremely blessed in that we had a manufacturer of small mom and pop out in Little Falls, New York, who has sort of grown with us. And he understands that there's certain times of the year that we're extremely busy, and other times where we're not so busy. And he's sort of ridden the curve with us. And that's so rare. So rare.
Yeah.
So we've been very lucky. But when you're small like this, it's very hard. I mean, there's tremendous challenge that most people don't see behind the scenes, because there's a whole handful of individuals that shop strictly on price. And then there's others that want made in the USA and are willing to pay a little bit of a premium. but it's tricky because the next generation is pretty much price driven.
I'm really curious, especially with what we're going through right now. I'm personally, I was one that was, probably not as conscious as I needed to be, being completely transparent with that. And I'm going to make, like, that's one of the things that I'm going to, coming out of this COVID-19 is, whether it's medicine or products or whatever, I think we need to get a lot more products back here made in America. Like, so that's one of the things that I personally am going to be more inclined to pay more for. And, to me, that's going to mean something, I think, differently than it has up until this point, based on, the dependency we've obviously had for overseas products. And, I think this has been a wake-up call for a lot of people. And I think that you to be selling that after we get out of this COVID-19 thing is gonna be a much easier sell, and I think people are going to be willing to pay a couple bucks more, especially if they know that they're helping other businesses.
Yes.
Because we just got exposed for the last 30, 60, on to another 60 days ahead. So, yeah, I think people, the American spirit, I hope is very much inclined to pick each other up and pay a couple bucks more. And I mean, we've seen it with the restaurants and everything locally here that people are doing to try to support each other. And I think that's something that hopefully people are a little bit more cognizant of and willing to spend a couple bucks more,
I'm right there with you. I mean, before I started this, I was not very mindful of that. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. And now I get it. I get the importance of, hey, support your little guys, support your small business.
Yeah.
And with that, we actually made a tremendous pivot this year prior to COVID. We pivoted and we pulled our line off of Amazon.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yes. And the reason we did that is because we really wanted our brand to align with the small mom and pop shops.
Yep.
Felt like that was a better fit because we are made in the USA, and it's just more of a specific audience. And we felt like with Amazon, I don't want to be compared to a product that's made in China.
Yeah.
I don't want people to devalue our brand. So it was a very, very aggressive move on our part. And we lost a lot of business, I'm not going to lie, but it was something that we needed to do to just kind of prove that, hey, we want to support the little guys. That's how we want to grow.
Well, and hopefully, things like this are helping spread the word for people like yourselves and, keeping it local here and just, really promoting that end of it. That's obviously the whole goal behind when we developed this show and platform, was just to kind of get the word out there, let people know, because obviously that's important, So let's kind of off of the COVID-19. Let's talk a little bit about, you guys have you've made a little bit of a change, major change to your business, frankly. And what's talk about that, and talk about what you guys are doing now to get away from what you were doing to what you're doing now as a result of COVID-19.
Sure. So the COVID started, as we know, we heard of it in December, and then it was sort of on our radar in January. And then I think it got a little bit more, we got a little more serious about it in maybe February, but then March and April were really like, wow, this is a serious thing and we need to do something about it. For our business, in the past 5 years, we've always had a trend where we're a little bit lighter coming off the winter months, but nothing like this. And the only thing that we could really attribute it to is people were tightening their wallets because of, the situation. And we noticed a complete flattening of sales. For 7 weeks, I think it was, we didn't have one single sale. So for a small business, that is really difficult.
Yeah.
We had overhead. This is a story that's all too familiar with a lot of businesses. How do you pay your bills? All of these things. And we were just going to do what everyone else is doing and just kind of deal with it. And we're a luxury baby brand. Obviously, people are not going to invest in that right now. Rightly so. So while we're sitting and really just kind of watching our business fail, Joanne had come to me and said, you know what? I have a lot of time on my hands. We have a lot of goods just sitting here. Why don't I just make face masks and donate them to a local organization? And I said, sure, why not? We have plenty of time. And then I sort of got thinking, well, you know what? The nurse in me really would like to see these rather than go to a random organization. Why don't we distribute them to local hospitals or medical facilities? I know New York City was really struggling. Maybe they could benefit. So our first run of face masks that she made pretty much wiped out whatever material we had. So I said to her, look, this feels good to do this in a time of crisis. It feels really good to give. I bet there's other individuals that would love to be a part of this. Yeah. Let's turn this into an actual movement. So then face masks for the front lines was created. And we built this entire program literally in 24 hours. A little side note, thank goodness for Darcy Knapp at SEO Web Mechanics, because she literally made it all, it made it into a fruition, because I would never be able to make this happen on my own website with the back end stuff. So a little aside there. Anyhow, this program launched, and the idea behind it is for every face mask purchased, one gets donated to a hospital or a medical facility in need. Okay. And prior to the CDC even coming out regarding the face mask wearing for the public, I was wearing face masks. My husband was wearing face masks because my background is ICU. And while I'm not at all claiming that these are N95s or medical grade masks, there is definitely a benefit of having your face covered, right? And we know that it doesn't protect COVID, but what it does do is if you cough or sneeze, it's going to block 70% of the particles that go into the air. Yeah. So we know that things are, especially COVID is airborne droplet. Yeah. So think about that. You're in a store and someone sneezes and it's in the air, and you can certainly walk right into it. So if you have a barrier over your face and your nose, the likelihood of the same, what's called viral load getting through that mask is most likely going to be a lot less versus not having a covering at all. That's number one. And number two, when you have a mask on, you're more mindful. You're not going to touch. You're not going to itch your nose. You're not going to, we're in a culture where we're always touching. Yeah. So if you have that, it just kind of gives you an awareness like, oh, I don't really need to touch my nose right now. Yeah. So that's the basis of the program. So you buy a mask for yourself, one gets donated. And we've been doing this for about 2 weeks, and we've had a tremendous success, I would say, because we've been able to ship off about 5 packages so far to facilities in need. Wow. So I could not do this by myself, that's for sure. I mean, lots of hands in the pot here.
That's great. When people come together, they figure out, they pivot, they come up with something that can really help people. And to me, that just, kudos to you and Joanne for coming up with something, because again, it's a lot easier to say, we'll just wait till we get out of this thing and then we'll pick back up and, yes, we'll rebound or get the grants that are available or yada, yada. And whereas this is, again, you guys obviously have proven when you first came out with the product that you did to now, it just shows a gradual climb in terms of adapting to what's out there and what's in need,
Right. Well, and like anything, whenever there's turmoil or devastation, there's always silver linings. Yep. And I feel like this is truly a silver lining because people are finding the good, banding together and making a difference in a time of need. Yep. And, the other piece to this story that I'm super proud of is the fact that manufacturer that I had mentioned that grew with us for 5 years, sadly, he closed his doors in January. And it was devastating for us because he was our guy. We grew with him. And I said to Joanne, we're having a great volume here. Why don't we call him and see if he wants to join in this program? And so that's what we did, and he was happy to hop on. So now we have a manufacturer that we're employing to basically generate enough masks for everyone. It's incredible.
Yeah, the trickle down effect is, and again, and as we talked before we got on here, we were talking about how, you know, this show and connecting and telling about people's stories, it's just, I just classify as it's all good. Like, that's all good stuff. People need to hear this. And
me too. Yes,
you know,
they need to hear the good, because there's plenty of awful things happening, and it's the reality of the news. So it's nice to be reminded that there are some great things happening as well.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Maria, before we kind of finish up and wrap up here, where can people find you, and how can they identify with making these orders if they want to donate or order the masks and just in general?
Sure. So the best thing to do is just to visit our website, www.extendher.com, and it's nicely laid out. There's a buy now button, and you can click right on that, and it will give you all of your options. You can also email if you have questions or you have specific scenarios, or even if you are a facility in need. I have a master list of all that are really in dire situation that need these masks, and we're just trying to chip away as best as we can. So you can email me at maria@extendher.com, and we can certainly discuss your situation.
All right. Well, I'm sure the viewers and the listeners out there are going to be very interested to hear your guys' story and kind of what you're doing to step up for everybody locally here and for those frontliners and just the community, obviously. But that was fun to catch up, and I'm thankful that you were able to take a couple minutes out of your day to do this with us.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was great. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, listen, keep up the good work. And guys, that's Maria Messier with ExtendHer. And look her up, do some good stuff out there. And together we'll all get through this thing hopefully sooner than later.
Hopefully. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Maria. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right.